February 24th, 1955. A young, unmarried graduate student makes an impossible choice. She gives up her newborn son for adoption, with one non-negotiable condition. The adoptive parents must promise he'll go to college. The agency had found the perfect couple, both lawyers, but at the last moment, they backed out. They wanted a girl. The baby went to a waitlist couple instead. Paul Jobs was a machinist. Clara was an accountant. Neither had college degrees. When the biological mother found out, she refused to sign the papers. It took months of negotiation and a written promise that they'd send him to college before she relented. That baby would drop out of college after one semester. His name was Steve Jobs. Steve didn't just think different, he couldn't think any other way. Picture this. It's 1968, in Mountain View, California. A 13-year-old kid finds a phone number in the directory, picks up the phone, and calls William Hewlett of Hewlett-Packard. His home. He needed parts for a frequency counter he was building. They talked for 20 minutes. Hewlett gave him the parts and a summer job. That wasn't confidence. That was something else. An inability to see barriers that stopped everyone else. His adoptive father, Paul, had taught him something in that garage. When you're a carpenter, making a beautiful chest of drawers, you're not going to use a piece of plywood on the back, even though it faces the wall and nobody will see it. You'll know it's there, so you're going to use a beautiful piece of wood on the back. For you to sleep well at night, the aesthetic, the quality, has to be carried all the way through. Steve would carry this obsession to absurd lengths. Red College, 1972. One semester of expensive liberal arts education before Steve dropped out, but he didn't leave. A dropped in, literally sleeping on floors, returning Coke bottles for food money, walking 7 miles every Sunday for a free meal at the Hare Krishna temple. And he took a calligraphy class. Beautiful fonts. Serif and sans. Serif typefaces, proportional spacing. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life, he'd later say. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. Without that calligraphy class, personal computers might still have boring, uniform text. One dropout's curiosity changed how billions of people see words on screens. Steve Jobs is 21, working at Atari, and his friend Steve Wozniak, genuine electronics genius, has built something miraculous. A personal computer that actually works. Wozniak wanted to give the designs away for free. To a hobbyist club. Jobs saw something else. Not a circuit board or revolution. We'll start a company, Jobs said. Wozniak wasn't sure. He had a good job at HP. So Jobs actually cried. Until Wozniak agreed, they sold a VW bus and a calculator to raise $1,300. They called the company Apple. Why? Jobs had just come back from an Apple commune. He thought it sounded fun, spirited, and not intimidating. A computer company named after fruit. Sure. Here's the part that shows Jobs' genius. Wozniak built a computer. Jobs built a product. While others sold circuit boards, Jobs sold the Apple II in a plastic case, looking like it belonged in your home. While others marketed to engineers, Jobs marketed to families. By 1980, Apple went public. Steve Jobs, at 25, was worth $256 million. Success didn't make Jobs easier to work with. It made him impossible. He called employees work shit to their faces. He parked in handicapped spots. He denied paternity of his daughter Lisa for years, claiming he was sterile while naming a computer after her. Then came the Macintosh. His baby, his masterpiece, a computer for the rest of us. The 1984 Super Bowl ad directed by Ridley Scott showed a woman throwing a sledgehammer at Big Brother. It aired once. It changed advertising forever. But the Mac was slow, expensive. It had almost no software. It flopped, commercially. The board sided with John Scully. The Pepsi executive Jobs had personally recruited with the line, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? In 1985, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he started in his garage. He was 30 years old. I didn't see it then, he said later. But it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Most people would have retired. Jobs started over. He founded next computer expensive machines that almost nobody bought, but that were technically beautiful. He bought a little animation company from George Lucas for $5 million. They made commercials, struggled, nearly went bankrupt. Jobs wanted to shut it down. Then they made a movie about toys that come alive when humans aren't watching. Toy Story premiered in 1995. It was the highest grossing film of the year. The animation company Pixar went public. Jobs' $5 million investment was suddenly worth over $1 billion. But he wasn't done. Apple was dying. 90 days from bankruptcy. Market share under 4%. Microsoft was winning. In a move of desperate irony, Apple bought Next for $429 million, essentially paying Steve Jobs to come back and save them. His first move on AD campaign, 2 words: think different. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, ... It was a manifesto. It was a mirror. Then he killed almost every product Apple made. Dozens of products reduced to 4. Make fewer things. Make them perfect. 1998. The iMac. A translucent blue computer that looked like candy. It looks like it's from another planet, said one reviewer. A good planet. 2001. The iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. He didn't invent the MP3 player. He made it beautiful, simple, desirable. 2007. The iPhone. When it was announced, Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer left $500, fully subsidized with a plan. I said that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers. Today, smartphones are worth $1 trillion market. 2010. The iPad. Critics called it just a big iPhone. He sold 300,000 on the first day. By 2003, Jobs knew something was wrong. Doctors found a rare, treatable form of pancreatic cancer. Treatablif. You act fast. Steve waited 9 months, trying alternative medicine, acupuncture, vegan diets, herbal remedies. His heroes Bob Dylan, the Beatles, they'd gone east for answers. Why shouldn't he? When he finally had surgery, the cancer had spread. But he kept working, kept presenting, getting thinner, frailer. That black turtleneck hanging looser. His last public appearance was June 7th, 2011, presenting plans for Apple's new campus to the Cupertino City Council. He looked like a ghost, but his eyes still burned. October 5th, 2011. He died. He was 56. His last words, looking past his family. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. In his office at Pixar, Jobs had a single framed photo. Not of himself, not of a product. It was of Edwin Land, the founder of Polaroid. Land had once said, "Do you want to undertake a project unless it is manifestly important and nearly impossible?" Steve Jobs spent his life building nearly impossible things. A computer for everyone. A phone that changed communication. Movies made of light and code. But his real product wasn't gadgets. It was wonder. He showed us that technology could be poetry, that business could be art, that the crazy ones really do change the world. The girl who gave him up wanted him to go to college. He dropped out, but he taught millions how to think. He wasn't perfect. He was often cruel. Sometimes wrong deep life, but he was also utterly, impossibly himself. And maybe that's the real lesson. Not to be Steve Jobs, but to be brave enough to be fully, authentically, impossibly yourself. Your time is limited, he once said. So don't waste it living someone else's life. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Steve Jobs. Stanford Commencing. 2005.